Alrighty, hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. It is the Age of Sigmar Narrative show. We're here to chat all things Age of Sigmar Narrative today. And, well, we have a doozy of a show because we've got so much to talk about. So to start with, we're going to go through all the news and Warhammer Fest, and we'll leave Kragnos to the end because I feel like we'll be able to sort of generic, like be able to talk our way through Broken Realms and get to Kragnos. So we'll leave him to the end to talk about. But I guess for starters, before any of that, how have you been, Andrew?
No, not too bad. Getting there. The war against the grey is pretty slow at the moment, but new job at work, stuff like that. But we're getting there. All good. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. War against the grey is going pretty well. I finished up the Wanderer's Army. People might have seen that get posted around. So that was fun. One project done and straight on to the next one. I got 15 Dawn Riders on the desk getting painted up now. So it never ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been pretty good. So I guess we'll leave the news to the last. We normally do it straight away, but we'll leave that to sort of the last of the introductions because there's a bit to talk about. But I guess... So yeah, hobby time, you're still working on your Slaanesh?
Yeah, I'm currently working on the leader for my Bulgors, which is one of the secret project miniatures I've been working on slowly. He's very cool.
Where's he from, that one?
The Zealot Miniatures.
Oh, yep. Nice.
Yeah, they do a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think I've seen some of their minotaurs floating about.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's going to be the champion for the unit. I've got I backed a Kickstarter, which is about. It's called brain escapes me. It's basically where they've done models for each of the zodiac signs.
Oh, nice.
As fantasy creatures, and obviously Taurus is a minotaur. But he's all sort of smoothed out and looks very elegant rather than savage. So I'm going to use him as my Bulgor, a Slaaneshi Bulgor.
Nice.
Once he arrives.
I did say I've been working on some Lumineth now, so that's the next hobby project. So this is the color scheme we're going for, like a nice cold sort of wintry blue sort of scheme for my Lumineth. I'm currently painting up my Dawn Riders, so I've got 15 of them on the desk. I've got sort of an ad hoc Lumineth for, so I grabbed 3 of like the box set when that first came out, the launch box, sold off the 2 Eltharians and all that. So I got 30 Wardens and 15 Dawn Riders and an Eltharian. I've then got the Catalar Stone Mage, a box of Archers, and then the other week when the second launch happened for Lumineth, I got one of everything. So we got a ton of stuff to paint.
Solid starter army.
Yeah. You can sort of pick what units I'm liking more and more, and got all the cool character models that got released from him. I can't wait to paint that Caligrave. He is by far my favorite Lumineth model.
Well, because I'm still waiting to see some of the water wacky paint jobs with the Lumineth before I decide, because I'm still not a fan of that creamy color.
Yeah. I'm going like the old 8th edition Wood Elf winter scheme, so that's sort of what I'm using. That like very cold grey blues and dark dull greys and like green tinted armor. So that's the plan for them. Cool. Besides that, I guess we'll do our shout outs before we get into the news as well. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to that you've seen lately?
Yes, Josh at Orange, who's running his first tournament out there. He's been working his guts out behind the scenes. He's had to move venue twice. So, check him out. He's doing really well.
What's the tournament called?
I can't remember. He changed the name. Hang on a sec. I'll tell you.
No, right. While Andrew goes and searches the name, I guess for me, shout outs. So a couple of locals of mine have started a brand new Age of Sigmar Battle Report channel called Beers of Sigmar. You might recognize a couple of the armies on there, like the Lumineth Realmlord's army we shouted out a couple of weeks. The dude that made them is the guy running the channel. So Beers of Sigmar.
Yeah, it's War Under the Mountain.
War Under the Mountain. No worry. Go have a check out of that if you're in that sort of region where that is something applicable to you.
Check it out on Facebook. He's looking for people. Entries are open now, so go for it.
No worries. I'll link both those things at the end of the show down below. So, with that, I guess let's get cracking into some news because there is a ton of Age of Sigmar news to chat about. Warhammer Fest was last night. And like I said, we'll go talk about this bad boy a little bit later. But we'll ramble through the miniatures that are coming out inside Kragnos first. So we have the Witch Hunters that are coming out that we know about. The father-daughter.
Yeah, daddy-daughter duo.
Yep. All the memes.
Yeah.
What do you think of these? New Cities of Sigmar, Order of Vizier.
It's very cool. They're putting that Sigmar spin on it too. We're drifting a little bit away from the old Warhammer sort of witch huntery stuff. And the sort of combo, like the dynamism of the models now, even the flame, the way the flame's moving off the torch there, and the way that she's holding the crossbow in the ready position down, not aiming it. It's just brilliant. Their model designers are just going over the top now.
Yeah, I really like it. So Kragnos in general, I think a big point that I like is that it's a book about a brand new character. So seeing brand new characters like these duo, I forget their names. These are two named characters, and we did find out that they are endless spell hunters, which is cool. But Cities of Sigmar, I mean, people have been speculating about Order of Vizier for quite some time about what we're going to get. And, well, it's quite clear now with obviously the model from Chaos City and these ones that they're going to be Cities of Sigmar models, which is cool. Yeah. It's an expansion for Cities of Sigmar, not something I guess many people ever thought we would see.
No, a lot of people were talking about, that Cities of Sigmar was going to be this stopgap and placeholder, and then eventually they just get rid of it. But I think, well, obviously not if we're getting new models for it. So,
yeah. And there's every chance that like model ranges could be replaced by an Age of Sigmarification of whatever it is. But
that's right.
I don't think the concept of cities is going to go anywhere.
No. I mean, we've had new cities mentioned in the Broken Realms books too. So, they're expanding, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, if we get one in Kragnos, that means we've literally, even though we missed out on one in Be'lakor, we have had a 4 for 4.
Yeah, yeah, and even like the evolving narrative of the cities, like what happened in Marathi was like the change of. Everguard, stuff like that. So the story's still evolving, but it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah, it's awesome, and these miniatures they're great. I like the idea of a father-daughter combo. I hope they've got some really cool rules for interaction between the two models on the table. Yeah,
and I mean, again, it's expanding that narrative, and it's much as it pains me to say that sort of inclusivity line that. Cancel culture seems to love. It is really cool that we're seeing more things like that. Like, it appeals to a broader demographic as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like seeing, and I think like named characters like are important to the game. I did a whole video talking about this when obviously Gardas was introduced. Like generic characters are cool, but named characters set the world for me.
Yeah, it keeps like it's really, really cool to have your own name characters, which is what obviously Anvil Apotheosis lets you do. But in terms of the storyline that GW are running with, we need those named characters to drive it.
Yeah, and you have those people that want to run. Like when Gardas got revealed, the amount of people that are like, cool, I'm painting my Stormcasters Hallowed Knights because of like what that character did.
Yeah.
And speaking of named characters, this bad boy. When the model decides to show up properly. Come on. Oh, well. We have Lord Croak here, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, about time we got a new model for him.
I'm going to try and refresh my page here so we can see him properly.
And of course, he's a central figure.
Here we go. That's better. There we go. Lord Croak.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Eltharion, like how somehow they've got this model to look as if it's floating. It's just amazing.
Yep. And it's all. I mean, again, he's one of the central figures in the Broken Realms book. To get a new model like that was, not nice. It was necessary.
Yeah. He just looks so much more imposing here. He looks awesome. Definitely, and so we know, obviously, he has a major part to play in Bellicor, and then he's got another major part to play. So it's nice for Seraphon, because I was chatting about this with friends, and how Seraphon of that army, how we know how they exist. Obviously, the latest Seraphon book told us the story of the Coalesced and the Starborn, and we know how they sort of work in Age of Sigmar, but we don't know the why they are in Age of Sigmar. And Croak is sort of necessary for that, because he is the named character. He's the one who can set the scene and set the story of why they are in Age of Sigmar.
And they do go into some of that in Bellicor. The whole sort of, we've been here forever, we're going to be here forever sort of narrative. And that's why he is that sort of central figure, because he's eternal, basically. Yeah,
well, he is the oldest character bar the Chaos Gods. Yeah. And even then, he might outdate them. Yeah, because the old ones bought him, the old ones didn't even create him in the old world. He was brought to the old world.
Yeah, and he's dead, but still there.
Yeah. And then you might be excited about these, the new Slaneshi, the Shards of Slanesh.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see some better rules. I love the idea of the shards. Given I'm doing a Slate Fray as my primary, I want to see how they interact before I grab one. But yeah, the second one I like the better. One with the got almost like the Peacock fan. I like that one.
Yeah, I do think the second one's my preferred one. So like I was saying the other night, though, I'm like, Slanesh is one of those aesthetics that I like it, but it's never sort of drawn me in completely. But these are cool.
See, for me, I'm a historian by trade, so there's that Babylonian, but also with this new stuff, almost Near Eastern sort of imagery to it, which I really, really like.
It's almost sort of I don't want to butcher the name of a religion's god, the Indian god.
You mean Ganesh or Vishnu?
That's one of them. I don't want to get it wrong. And it also reminds me very Xerxes Persian.
Yeah, and that's it. What I've been actually looking at for this army for some of the Chaos Warriors is there are some 3D prints in the style of the old Chaos Dwarves, not the Asgore, the actual old ones, and they had a real strong Babylonian Persian feel. So I'm going to grab some of them and actually use them as small units of Chaos Warriors.
Nice.
Yeah, paint them up in purples and greys and stuff.
Yeah. And I guess the last... Oh, I skipped him. The last one, the Songman from the Sylvaneth.
Yeah, he sort of came out of nowhere. That was really cool. When we saw the previews, I was like, whoa.
He's a cool model.
Yeah, the little spikes hatching atop the top of him, it was really cool. And, the massive big horn.
Yeah, the flute horn thing he's got.
Yeah.
It's really cool because I want to know exactly what they are on top, because there's the Tatakan that I mentioned in the lore of how a bunch of Giranians sort of ride these giant beetle creatures.
Yeah.
Or are they Wardroth beetle, all of which are the offspring of Tadanakoko or Tadanakoto, which is a god beast.
Are they actually just little spites that he can send out to protect him or attack or something? It's very cool. Yeah.
There's just a ton of cool models coming out for that. But I guess this is the primary part we're going to talk about here to start with, and that is the Soulblight Gravelords. We saw the rest of them. Let's get into the most Marmite Vegemite model there is, I guess, across the internet at the moment. And it is Lucavi, the mother of nightmares.
Yeah, that is just gold. It's so Sigmar.
Yeah. I dig the weird. I'm a big fan of it. I like that they just people were summing it up like Castlevania.
Yeah.
Like that weird nightmare creature thing.
Yeah. And they needed to do to Sigmarize, for lack of a better word, the vampires, they needed to do something like this. If they'd just gone with standard old school vampire council, then that's not Sigmar, that's Warhammer.
Yeah.
And this really just stamps the Sigmar label onto it.
Yeah. No, for me this is great. I do like her better than the generic one, which we'll go have a look at.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that it's another one of those kits that lets you do that.
Yeah, we were talking about this before. I like that they've got these kits where you get a generic hero and then you get a named variation of it.
Yeah. And what it means too is that kit's going to have all sorts of extras in it that you can then use for conversions and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look at her. Like, just the face is really cool as well.
Yeah.
And then we've got.
Yeah, so I was saying that sculptors now are just amazing. Like, I know it's all digitally sculpted now, but it's still incredible.
Yeah, and then what is it? A Vengorian Lord? I think they're called. Yeah, Vengorian Lords. So this is the generic one. As we're starting to see, this is the power pose of all vampires, the claw. All vampires have this as their power pose. But he's cool as well. I like the sabers that they're getting. I like how they're having, despite this being an absolutely monstrous looking creature, he's got like a very regal weapon.
Yeah. Yes, it's agility rather than strength with the blade.
Yeah, I mean, because he's a giant vampire monster, he does not need to be hitting. He already hits hard.
Yeah, and the whole sort of bat/wolf/vampire aesthetic meshes really well.
Yeah, like almost like abyssal terror, I guess you could call that, like the bottom half of them.
And look, I mean, there's been a lot of people online talking about, just head swap it with this, head swap it with that, and that's cool. People can do what they like. And I think we're going to see some amazing conversions as well as what these are. Yeah,
I think that's what's cool about this kit is it's a cool model as it is, but it is really easy to convert if you want something more generic, standard. Like it's easy to take that top half off, stick a Vargulf head on it, and put some. I saw what was it? Ricky Smith was sharing an idea for the lady up top of putting that instead of Marathi on like the snake body.
Yeah,
I'm like, I can see that.
You could do that even maybe a demon prince of Slanesh or something doing it that way as well.
Yeah, you've definitely got a ton of options to play with. Then, spoiler alert, if you haven't played Curse City, Radikal the Beast. You thought he was dead, and well, he's back.
Yes, he's not dead.
Yeah, now that he's lost his, place in like the nobility and stuff, he's decided, well, I don't need to pretend to be some aristocratic vampire anymore. Time to go get swole.
Full savage.
Yeah, this is cool.
Look at the little guys hanging around for scraps underneath him. Yeah.
Yeah. That one that's clearly seen something under that loincloth on the right-hand side there. But I like the wolf aesthetic. I like that they bring the wolf aesthetic into the vampires.
Well, yes, it looks like we've got the different vampire families because they've got different, sort of titles. So, I mean, it might that is a sort of throwback to the vampire counts with the dynasties and stuff.
Yeah, I like that they're not just going into the old ones. I like that we've got this Virkos, I believe it's pronounced, that is like the wolf aspect. Because obviously, so Virkos is pretty much the aesthetic coming out of Ulfenkarn. So we know we've got the other ones, the two characters we haven't yet seen, the rat dude and the weird nightmare lady. And we'll get to another model from the same bloodline. It does appear that Virkos is going to be our predominant bloodline. Like this is going to be the bloodline that's going to be our Hammers of Sigmar how one sub-faction always gets the love more than anything. But it's cool. I absolutely dig him as a model. And a common theme on the vampires is these little hangers-on, as we'll see.
Yeah. That sycophantic sort of Rehnquist sort of thing.
Yeah.
Master has promised me eternal life.
Yep. But he's just got so much going on. I love like the blood dripping into the goblet. That shoulder pad, the iron on the shoulder pad is just such a cool like design.
Yeah.
Even his face, like he's got like a really nice like look to his face that I love.
Well, the expressions they're doing are so good now. Like, I mean, they can put so much detail in the faces. It's just, the trick then is to be able to do them justice when you paint them.
Yeah, I will say that too. I thought the lady up before, the Nightmare Lady, was a really good female face because it is something they sometimes struggle with, getting female faces correct.
Yeah, they're getting better. I think. Yeah, they've had some shockers.
Yeah, I think she is right up there with the best of like female sculpt, like facial features.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Then speaking of Virkos, we've got Belladama Volga, or the old lady from Game of Thrones.
Yes. Eastern European mythology.
Yeah.
So the Baba Yaga sort of myth. All she needs is a chicken house.
Yeah, and she's got the wolf feet as well. So which is clearly like our common thing for Virkos is this wolf aesthetic.
Riding on a wolf, and it looks like they're actually wolves on a base, not dire wolves. So
yeah, I was talking about this with some friends. I guess like these are her current pets, and then maybe as they die, they just become dire wolves. But she actually like keeps wolves as pets.
Yeah, or are they her children?
Yeah.
Because the vampires can turn themselves into wolves, so maybe the Virkos.
Yeah,
maybe.
I guess that's something worth talking about, and we'll talk about that at the end of the news because I think that's a really cool thing. But the new dire wolves as well.
Yeah. That was one of those kits that was desperately in need of an update.
Yeah,
I think terrible.
Like the skeletons, I was happy to see new skeletons. They probably didn't need the update, despite being terrible to build. Yeah. The direwolves and the zombies for me were the two that needed new models.
Yeah. So if I'm ever moved to do the Death Army, it'll be zombies, not skeletons, just because I prefer it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to do it with those old ones because they were, again, like the direwolves, they were terrible.
Yeah.
Very, very dated.
Yeah.
But these
they were great back in the day.
Yeah. These new direwolves are just awesome.
Yeah. I love the little crow on the back of this one, like pulling off the flesh.
Eating it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Doom Wolf howling, that's very cool.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of cool stuff about all of these models. I like how a lot of them have like the different sort of levels of decay on them. Like this one here's got like his whole skull gone. This one's like, and then the one next to him's like almost normal.
Yeah, like he's just freshly dead or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like how they're all like different stages of death. And then we've got the big family picture here, which you can see. So we've got the corpse cart there, and the Vargeists, and the Fellbats. So I'm going to say the fact we've got the big Fellbats here at the back, that's going to be a box set we see. That we're going to see a unit of Fellbats.
Yeah. Well, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do now, with the way that's looking, you could do like the very cool just bestial army with, direwolves, bats, and a couple of feral vampires leading it all.
Yeah, I hope that is a thing that we can do. I hope you can make like direwolves battle line and actually get them to be,
Well,
playable.
I think it said somewhere, one of the articles said, I think they're battle line for all the vampire families, I think it said, so that would be cool. Yeah,
I just hope that like there's ways, with like Belladonna or Belladama, what I think her name is, that you can make like the direwolves, like a useful unit rather than that traditional chaff screen that they are.
Yeah, they're just lined up in front of everything else, yeah. I mean, you'd hope not, but yeah.
Yeah. Worth mentioning is too, the other unit we know, like, so we were told that this is it for Soulblight Gravelords. We have now seen everything that's coming. We know that Graveguard, a lot of people said, maybe they're going away, but they are staying. It's currently the free model you can pick up is a Graveguard model.
Yeah.
So Graveguard are staying as they are. We then got this Warhammer Age of Sigmar Soul Arena. That's it. I mean, it's cool. Completely fine. It's a cool little mobile game. You know, happy exists. Maybe I'll play it on the bus to work.
Yeah. GW just cementing their stranglehold on everything.
Yeah. Look, it's cool it exists. I'm not going to get angry that it exists.
No.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of like little cool mobile games that I like with Age of Sigmar. So I am excited to see more of the video game. Like turn-based one. That looks cool. I guess the last thing...
I think it'd be cool if they did venture out into sort of a, MMO type for Sigmar too. Not so much like the old Warhammer one. Something like a la Assassin's Creed or something like that, where you play, I don't know, a Stormcast or a Free Guildsman or something. That would be cool. Yeah.
So I guess one last thing to talk about news-wise as well. So Sparky Hero HD is saying that, Jez Goodwin in his little video did say the battle line for all Soulblight.
Yeah,
cool.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that was the case. My case isn't that the battle line. I want them to be not chaff. I want them to be able to have a role that's not chaff.
So they're not just there to be a speed bump.
Yeah, because they're cool models.
Yeah.
So I guess the last thing is Sam Pearson shared on Twitter. He was talking about the White Dwarf, which we know is coming, where we're going to get a Anvil of Apotheosis update for vampires, and there's going to be rules for creating vampires that can transform into fellbats and wolves during battle.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's my sort of narrative. I'm like, that is what I want to see from Anvil of Apotheosis and narrative play.
Yeah, see, and that is narrative. That is narrative storytelling. Because even if the transformation is not advantageous, but characterful, cool, go for it.
I mean, look, turning into a bat could always be cool. It gives you character fly, so that's like that's straight away. Like anyone who plays like lots of Age of Sigmar knows how important fly is as a rule.
Yeah,
it's what makes certain armies good and certain armies bad.
Yeah. It'll depend too. I mean, what they gain access to, what they lose, and things like that. But
it was really cool. So quite excited to see more of the White Dwarf and get a proper look at that.
Definitely.
But like I said, we'll come back to Kragnos at the end because I think there's reason to talk about that at the end. Because now we're going to get onto our main topic, which is talking Broken Realms. We're going to talk about the story so far. So fair warning, spoilers ahead. If you haven't read the books, we're not going to be filtering anything.
Everything's been out for a while.
Yeah. So you have your chance. If you haven't left now, your own fault if you get something spoiled. It starts off like talking about how like Broken Realms, what it's done, it's shaken up the mortal realms and all that sort of stuff, as any big narrative installment does. And like, I guess to start off with, let's talk about Broken Realms in general. How have you felt about the series in general so far?
I like the fact that like everything with Sigmar, they're not afraid to shake things up. I can see some of it. I can see is obviously rules-driven narrative, for lack of a better term. But in general, I think it's really cool. I like the way they further developed Marathi's storyline. I thought that was very cool. And some of it, like reintroducing characters like Be'lakor, is stuff that people have been after for a while. So as much as a lot of people like to hang shit on Games Workshop, I think they are doing generally what people are after, which is cool. Yeah,
and like this hits so many points. Like I think Broken Realms in general, like you alluded to it, it's not just the narrative side that they've done well in. Like obviously Age of Sigmar knocks it out of the park with narrative 9 out of 10 times. Really. It does a good job at progressing its narrative in every battle tome that comes out. every story that comes out, every narrative release or whatever. For me, what this has done great is they've realized like when they've needed to update scrolls for this, they've fixed rules, they've given additional rules, they've realized that side of the game as well. Like the more match play, competitive side of the game as well has been really well thought out as well, I think.
Yeah.
Like IDK comes to mind when I think of that, like the rewrites to the scroll and the turtle and the eidolons.
Yeah. And look, there are still bits, obviously, that are desperately in need of some of that love, but, you know, it'll come eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I would rather be in an Age of Sigmar world where the longest we've gone without an update for any army is 3 years than in a fantasy world where I went from 06 to like 2015 to get a Wood Elf update. Yeah. Or if I Bretonnia, I had a 2003 update and never saw another one.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, but that's the beauty of having in the evolving narrative. Part of the problem that the old Warhammer had was everything was kind of stagnant. And then when they did start to do things like the end times, everyone went, oh, wow, this is so cool. It was the end.
Yeah.
Whereas with Sigmar, because of the sort of fluid nature of the realms themselves, they can play with it forever. Yeah, I mean the whole Slaanesh arc has been evolving and evolving. Morathi's search for godhood has been evolving. The one thing we haven't seen a lot of to date has been destruction and hello Kragnos. So,
yeah, and even then, like we've learned lots about destruction on the way here. Like we've learned about the Loon Asylum of Skragrot in the realm of Chamon. We've learned about Godrak and what he's doing in his big charge he wants to fight Sigmar one-on-one. You know, and all these different stories. Like, I'm glad to see like Broken Realms is like picking up and just sort of bringing some of these stories. And it's actually seen some of these stories that we've known characters have been after and given results to it.
Yeah.
Like Morathi got her godhood, Slaanesh got out, some sort of. But, you know, like, and so that sort of happened. Like Bielakor's finally shown himself as a major player and an actual rival to Archaon.
Well, I think that too. I mean, in the Be'lakor story, they really do give us a lot more of that sort of Archaon's the new favourite, but there was people before. There were former favourites.
Yeah.
And it adds to more to that ongoing story of the Mortal Realms. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like the interesting thing about it is like Be'lakor is so important to Chaos. So the great thing that makes Order so great in Age of Sigmar is that the characters don't get along. Like there is internal conflict between the characters themselves. Even the actual good ones, like say Teclis and Sigmar, they're good guys. Well, we'll put them in that bracket, but they don't see eye to eye at all.
No, they both got their own little agendas, and you know.
Yeah. And it's like even these two characters who are pretty similar sort of sides of the war don't get along.
Yeah, and nobody's worried about stepping on someone else's toes if it clashes with their agenda.
Yeah, and Be'lakor is important for Chaos for that because he disputes Archaon's undeniable claim.
Yeah. And there's also the story in there. Whenever you see mention of other greater demons and stuff with him, it's always like they've been either bullied, coerced, or bribed into Be'lakor's service. So it's not like they're underlying the existing law to put him in there either. It's like a bloodthirster has to be somehow tricked or forced to fight for Be'lakor because they're all psychos. And even the great unclean ones, like they have to do it. They owe him or something like that.
Yeah. I will say to everyone too, it talks here about the free short stories that have come out on the Broken Realms website. Go give them a read. There's some really great little short stories there.
And all of it adds a little bit of flavour.
Yeah. So we start with Broken Realms Morathi. So this was the story literally of Morathi trying to achieve godhood, of which she ended up getting it.
Yeah, by basically lying to Sigmar and telling him, she's going to be doing one thing and then does another, and
Yeah. And stealing from Archaon to get her godhood.
Yeah.
Betraying like the other elven gods, even her own son.
Yep.
And so I saw this pop up on Twitter, and someone was like, "Oh, why didn't like all these elven king souls? Why didn't the other elves drag them out?" Well, the same reason Slaanesh sort of kept them at the bottom of his belly.
Mm.
So the elven gods were drawing them out Slaanesh's mouth, and that's what Morathi did. Is she went and slashed open his gut so she could get what she wanted.
Yeah. And they're powerful entities in their own right, so we may yet see more of that too.
Yeah, we talked about this when we sort of looked back on Morathi on like, look who actually cut her in half in that scene, and what that could mean. So there's a lot to sort of talk about here. But what I liked about all these Broken Realms books, in particular, is that they all focused on the character, and they weren't like, I likened them to like the End Times, where Broken Realms Thanquol didn't actually have Thanquol winning. Broken Realms Glotkin didn't have Glotkin winning. These Broken Realms books, the characters have won. Like Morathi kicks butt in her story. Teclis kicks butt in his story. Be'lakor kicks butt in his. Like it is their story. That's not, it's around them. It's no, it's this person coming and kicking some butt.
Yeah, and like, yes, there are satellite stories in each one. Yeah. But the focus, all those satellite stories come back to the titular character.
Yeah. Which gives me hope for Kragnos, because like I like that we got 3 very established characters in them so far. Perhaps Morathi more than any of them, I guess, is the most established Age of Sigmar character. Teclis is pretty new. And Be'lakor is was before this rather undefined in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
And Kragnos is just utterly new. Like, we know nothing about him.
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't. It's almost impossible for them to do, a Gorka Morka type model. But here's this someone who's, I guess he's kind of. We don't know obviously all of it yet, but the sort of little tidbits we've got sort of suggest that he's a bit the Be'lakor to Gorka Morka. Gorka Morka's Archaon. Like, he's an old destruction god.
Yeah, and like I think that's a cool thing about him, is that just talking about all these stories that the characters just have so much richness and they get so much out of these books. But there's still tidbits left at the end of every story about all these, like, we've got stories to go on with after Broken Realms. Yeah. Like, we're not just there with Broken Realms. Like, from Morathi, we still have unanswered stories from Morathi. Like, what happens to Van Brecht? Like, we know he's hunting for the rest of his family. Like, there's a whole storyline here that we can push on for that character.
Yeah, and see, I think that's one of those things that's actually good storytelling by GW, because what they're doing is that they're part of their whole market now is tell your own stories. So they don't want to leave every question answered. They want you to be able to tell those stories with your armies on the tabletop.
Yeah. But also, this gives them the ability to, maybe Van Brecht gets an actual model later down the line. Like, maybe we can focus on him later. And obviously, you've still got, like, Morathi. Like, I just start thinking about, we don't know what happened to Van Brecht. We've still got the stories between Volturnus and Morathi. We sort of, like, we're left at a, Volturnus is begrudgingly working for her. We know why. We know Sigmar eventually seeds Harkur onto Morathi. You get told that in the Daughters of Cain battle tome.
Yeah.
That sort of, they both go, all right, let's stop. We got bigger problems.
Yeah, and like, again, that sort of paints the Sigmar in a slightly different light too. Like, he's willing to just give up, his so-called people for his obsessive war effort.
Yeah. So that's what's really cool about Morathi, is we got, and like all these stories in general, we've got these other stories to tell.
Yeah.
So let's start having a look next, I guess, at Teclis. This, I guess, was the most polarizing of the books. And I think probably not like obviously we don't know much about Kragnos. So Kragnos does look like it's going. I think this is the weakest of the books for one reason. I didn't like that it had the second half of the Lumineth in it. I thought that could have been used better in someplace else.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that the story-wise, the idea for that is obviously they are quite literally Teclis's baby. But yeah, some of it felt. I found some of Teclis felt a little bit too much of look how good the new boys are in the storytelling, and I was like, oh well, okay, cool, because they are the new kids on the block. But there are some elements, and the number of times they use like the same sort of descriptive language about the purity and the righteousness and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I kind of get it.
Yeah, and it was still a good book. Make no doubt, there were some really cool payoffs to stories that have been years in the making in this. Like I looked to like the Eltharion and Arcan fight on Eltharion, like sort of getting his revenge. Because for those who don't know, Eltharion was turned to dust by Arcan just before the end time started in Blood of Sigmar. Is that what the...
Well, yeah, one of them, I can't remember.
It was the precursor that no one ever thought was going to be anything more, but ended up being the whole setup for the end times.
The gist of it, yeah.
So that was really cool. I like the idea of like how Teclis got his mortal wound. And now it has to sit near Alariel because she's the only one keeping it at bay. Which is very reminiscent of old world Teclis because Teclis sort of had to be with Lilith a lot of the time. Yeah. Because she kept healing him. Yeah. Because he was incredibly frail in the old world.
Yeah, older than dirt. Yeah.
And then you've also got like everything that happened in Nagash. Like I think that story is going to be quite interesting to tell with Nagash.
The fact that, again, no spoilers, but, the fact that Nagash is actually basically destroyed again towards the end, that's really telling. And, of course, he's not dead because he's Nagash.
You see you get told the essence sort of floats away at the end.
Yeah. But it gets to there's that whole one-upmanship, I guess, and that's what I meant about sort of the new kids on the block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Gash has been painted as this, basically unassailable force for so long, and here's the new thing, and suddenly he's squished. And look, it wasn't like you just walked in there and snotted him, but it did feel a little bit sort of okay.
Yeah, they were clearly trying to do something with this book, and that was show that the Lumineth are a major player in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
And like they definitely achieved that, and there were some good like parts of the story. Like I talk about Eltharion and all that. I liked that Nagash wasn't actually sort of destroyed. He was bound to like Avalonor in a very similar ritual to what Slaanesh is bound with.
Yeah. And again, they're staying true to the Sigmar lore by doing that sort of stuff. And as you say, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like it was terrible. It was horrible. It was just some bits of it for me felt a little bit forced.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was cool. It got some cool models out, like the Lumineth got the thing. I think the big thing for me is I would have preferred them fill that out with more stuff instead of just having half a Lumineth book in here.
Yeah, and it did feel that way because, we got the sort of the next chapter, if you like, of the Lumineth forces as well, and you kind of wonder if we're going to get another one down the track because Lumineth is one of the pure Sigmar armies, which has been a bit weird because we haven't really had a lot more about the Idoneth apart from the sort of reworking of some of the War Scrolls. But it kind of feels like Lumineth are going to get a lot more.
Yeah, it feels like Lumineth are going to be one of those armies that are going to be a major focus. And look, elves sell. People can hate on them all they want, but high elves used to sell like hotcakes in fantasy, even when they weren't good. They're a popular thing. Yeah.
And that's why I think with the Cities of Sigmar, so many of the Dark Elf range was kept.
Yeah. So then we move on to Broken Realms, Be'lakor. I have to say, I reckon this might be my favourite one so far.
I was going to say the same thing.
I didn't think it could top Marathi because, like, Marathi was one of those ones where, all right, so I'll say this: I like Marathi better for the rules it provided because it gave every major army I play is in Marathi. Be'lakor, I like the story setting of more.
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked the lore behind Be'lakor in the old world and stuff as well.
Yeah.
You know, the sort of the prodigal son sort of thing. Yeah. And so they've done a good job of revisiting that, and the personality of Be'lakor really comes through in the story, which is really cool. He's not just sort of manipulating and cruel. He really is obsessed with the upstart old or younger brother who's taken his throne, sort of thing. It's done very well. Yeah,
it's great. And like, so yeah, for those, I guess let's talk about Be'lakor and his like history. He is the first Daemon Prince of Chaos. He's the first one to gain all the Chaos blessings, and he was elevated to a Daemon Prince. However, in doing so, he was forever cursed. He could never be the Ever-Chosen himself. He was forever tasked to crown the Ever-Chosen.
Yeah. And he don't like it.
And he does not like that idea. He's actually killed multiple of them over the years. Obviously, none in Age of Sigmar because it's still Archaon. But during like fantasy, he's actually he's killed multiple Ever-Chosen, and he's tried to kill Archaon on multiple accounts as well. Yeah. Even in the end times, he tried to kill Archaon.
Because it really is, you know, how dare you take my throne sort of stuff.
Yeah, like it should be mine.
Yeah. And that's the motivation that drives him through the whole story, which is very cool.
Yeah, he believes that what Archaon has should be his. And it's a cool motivation, like, because you can totally get behind Be'lakor as a character with that motivation of, like, everything that should have been mine was given to someone else. Like, that's such an easy motivation to get behind.
Yeah, and like, it's believable. What do you do? Believable emotion. Archaon's kind of, from Be'lakor's perspective, Archaon's that spoilt child.
Yeah.
And he wants to, you know, take back what's his and all that sort of stuff. And the manipulation and the way he does it and that sort of grand Machiavellian scheme that he's got going, which it feels a bit like a murder mystery because you don't see all the threads until right at the end.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the lore as well. So right off the bat, it talks about like Stormcaster Turtles and Seraphon invade the 8 points to thwart a gaunt summoner who's attempting to open a realm gate to Azir. We obviously saw that the realm gates to Azir were trying to be opened in Marathi. It was a major thing that like Marathi actually told Sigmar, which wasn't actually a lie. She had ulterior motives though in telling him this.
Marathi, you know, as I said before, she ends up doing her own thing and, you know, screw Sigmar.
But she never actually lied about the whole people are trying to break into Azir.
No, she didn't specifically lie. No, she's very clever.
Because that's why Sigmar agreed to help, because he's like, I know you're probably doing something else, but I can't actually ignore this.
Yeah. And the thing too, like when the Seraphon do in that opening sort of campaign that we see in Be'lakor, the Stormcast are getting, you know, the shit kicked out of them. And the Seraphon appear, and there's that little slim glimmer of hope, and the Stormcast, all the various characters are going, oh, yes, I've heard of these guys. They're here to... where are they going? And they all sort of storm off through the realm gate and leave the Stormcast to their fate.
Yeah. And so the resulting destruct, like, obviously they end up winning through various means. But the resulting destruction breaks several important realm gates throughout the 8 points and other realms.
Yeah, and blowing up a silver tower.
Yeah, literally into a realm gate. Does not end well, apparently. Apparently that causes all sorts of haywire. Who would have thought?
And Shimon, the whole landscape of Shimon's changed.
Yeah, and so the connection between Stormcast and Azir is partially severed. Now, it's interesting because it's quite clear it's not all Stormcast; it's particular Stormcast.
And it's good. I think. I mean, that's obviously something the narrative can go with for a long while now. the same as we got on here. Like, do we end up now with sort of two schools of Stormcast, the sort of the newer ones that are able to withstand this horrible malaise, and the older ones who, if they die, well, that's it.
Yeah. So it's an interesting sort of like part to like take. And like obviously Gardas is front and center of this. So this for me, because Gardas is affected by this for me just like cements Gardas as like that such a focal point of a character in the story now.
Yeah.
Like it really like sets his scene because he's one of the ones that can't be affected. This does to me though leave the point of like, well, maybe this is where we start getting Vander's Hammerhand back in the story, because obviously him and the Hammerhands have been out of action for quite a while ever since Archaon killed them all.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a whole lot of older plot hooks like that we could see affected now with this.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. If like Vander's coming back in some form would be really cool. Of course, like after all everything that happened, pretty much Tremont is sort of like shut off from the other realms. There's
not many realm gates left.
Yeah. There's one to Azir. So the gate to Azir is still intact because that's pretty much what the Stormcast sort of go. This is the one that actually needs to be kept.
Yeah. They grab, but yeah, the idea that destruction of Silver Tower sends that quake all the way through the realms, and the stuff they talk about with the Caradron was really cool there as well, because they start talking about the Caradron going, oh no, is this another Nagash screw up? Is this another Necroquake? And then they work out it's not, and the fact that we get that geriatric, what appears to just be an Arcanaut instructing the entire Geldra, the whole council. And at the end, it's revealed that he's actually some sort of elder Duardan god type figure. I'm wondering if it's the White Dwarf.
Yeah, well, white bearded Duardan is what they hint at. So, and it's not the first time we might have seen Grombrindle. If you've read the Gotrek stories, you've got the long beard in that is the white beard and all that very likely could be Grombrindle as well.
And so that what would be really cool with that is to have him come back in some form, and then we could have an option for a Duardan force that just contains all aspects. Fire Slayers, Arcanaut, like Caradron, and some Dispossessed all in the one army getting army-wide rules and stuff. That would be cool.
Yeah, and could we get a resculpt of a Grombrindle model? Because we sort of do have this. So do you remember the old Grombrindle model where he had the shield bearers? Do you remember who his shield bearers were?
Because it was Gotrek and
Bugman.
Bugman, yeah.
And because we've got Jacob Bugman's son now, and obviously Gotrek is still a thing. Like, could we see I'm just thinking of like a reimagined model of like Bugman sitting Gotrek carrying Grombrindle upon a shield again.
Something like that. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Because it's the thing. Like, I think a lot of because we've got the elf players are pretty much happy, but in terms of the dwarf players, the Dispossessed are there, but they're not the same.
I was having this chat with like on stream last night when we were talking about like all the cities and stuff, and you've got like all the elves, like you just don't have an actual Dispossessed city.
They seem to be
Tempest Eye as close as it gets, and even then it's not really meant to be.
Yeah, they just seem to be the sort of the engineers and stuff in everyone else's city. Whereas if they had the new Karakadron or something, so then we could have Fire Slayers and all those guys and Dispossessed and a Caradron Skyport attached and stuff like that. That would be really cool.
Yeah. And someone's asking like, there's a Grombrindle model that looks like a bit of a Slayer with just white hair, and like, that was probably the laziest Grombrindle they ever did. It was literally just a generic Slayer model painted with white hair. That's all.
Yeah, that was just the Demon Slayer model that they just painted white.
But
that model came out late in Warhammer. And then when they took away Slayers for standard Dispossessed, they didn't know what to do with him.
But we've also and obviously the main plot point is Be'lakor convinces Lady Alinda to join him.
Yeah.
And eventually they lay siege to Vindicarum, but eventually they're drawn off because Grombrindle, or who we assume is Grombrindle, rocks up and saves the day.
And just manages to unite all the Caradron Skyports, and in they come like an old World War II movie with the charge.
And so that takes us over to Kragnos at this point. So we'll come back to the news and we'll start talking Kragnos, because this is the only Broken Realm story we've sort of got left now. It was confirmed by them that Kragnos is for and last. And so Broken Realms, Kragnos. So a couple of things we know. We know he was the beast under Beastgrave. He was the monster under the mountain that was kept there. Lord Croak is pretty heavily hinted to be the one that put him there, which is cool.
Lots of hints of just elder powers and ancient races and stuff like that.
Yeah, free of last from his mystical bonds, the ancient god of earthquakes, slayer of dragons, and an unalloyed force of destruction. And there we can see his awesome miniature.
It's massive too. Have you seen there's some pictures online of him next to the Gatebreaker Gargan? Jeez.
He stands just a little bit taller, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's about twice the size of a Thundertusk from the looks of the pictures there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very cool. As I was saying just before we got on, I've got a mixed destruction army. So all I need to do is grab him and paint him up and we're off.
Yeah, and I've got Grots and Ogres, so sure, I'll grab him.
Yeah. I think he'll be one of those ones that you're gonna want to get hold of pretty quick, because I think he'll sell out reasonably quick. Yeah.
So they even talk he towers above all but the Mega Gargants. And what's cool is they talked a little bit about this little detail down the bottom of his base here. These effigies of him that apparently have been popping up all over the mortal realms, and no one knows who's putting them there.
And I think just looking at sort of the design, you were saying before, Luke, that they couldn't make him an ogre or a grot or something like that. He needed to be something different to be the god for all.
Yeah, definitely. He needed to be some creature that was different than all of them, so that he could just fit into everything. And Centaur is a cool thing. I know we've got Beast of Chaos people who are a little bit unhappy that the Centaur has been ripped out from them, but really, Beast of Chaos have one Centaur model, one set. They've only got. It's not like it's a massive aesthetic that is owned by Beast of Chaos.
No, look, I mean, I get the angst on a lot of the Beast pages. I'm working on Beasts myself right now, because I haven't had anything new for a while. But I don't think. Let's be honest, the Centaurs were never really a huge part. They haven't had new models. They're still fine cast. So they talked a little bit about the story on how he's everything's sort of focusing on Excelsis. As we've got from all the short stories, hurry up, there's plot happening over there. Because we've got the Slanesh force that Sigvold and who was it? Glutos were fighting, and Shalaxi were all fighting amongst each other, and then the shards sort of came in and go, "Wait, shut up! Get over to Excelsis. There's plot happening there." And then obviously Godrak's leading his force there as well, with Scragrok just sort of following. So it's cool. It'll be interesting to see where they go with this, because obviously this is all leading up to 3rd edition. So
I'm pretty confident we're going to see 3rd edition on Saturday.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me with the Warhammer Fest the way that it is.
Yeah. It just there are a few things if we saw, because I was thinking I was pretty so we saw 9th edition this time last year. We saw 2nd edition Age of Sigmar this time in the year it was released.
Yeah.
It all just lines up. They reveal editions at Warhammer Fest. They have traditionally for the last 6 years, 6, 7, 8 years now, shown new editions. Age of Sigmar was shown at Age of Sigmar itself was shown at Warhammer Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think the narrative that goes with Kragnos will be the one that takes us into that 3rd edition.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Soul Wars was this one, and this will be
whatever is coming now. And I like this. I like that we're getting different editions, like having this different plot hook behind them.
Yeah.
So a few things they talked about the book. So obviously we're getting Kragnos in there. We're getting all the Gloomspite Gits rules that have appeared in White Dwarf are apparently appearing in it. And they mentioned in specific spiders. So that's the one thing we haven't got for the Gloomspite Gits. So perhaps we're getting the spiders in there as well. So a spider subfaction as well.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool to update Gloomspite rules. Cool.
Yep.
We're getting all the different models and characters we've seen. They made it sound like we're getting rules for Excelsis.
Yeah, and as I was saying before, we've had so many 3 cities. This would be cool to get.
Yeah, it'd be a beast realm, realm ago. And Excelsis is such a cool lore-wise city. I really hope we get rules for it.
Yeah. Well, with the Gur, we haven't had as much on as some of the other realms. We had Haish for a long time. Then we got the Lumineth. We've had bits of Gur in the different destruction books, but not in that level. So. Yeah,
and there's a ton of books that focus on Excelsis, though. Obviously, Callus and Toll, City of Secrets is all Excelsis. Spear of Shadows is all Excelsis as well. There's a lot of stuff in Excelsis. The City of Prophecy. So I think it'd be a really cool city to explore. And the other thing, Sylvaneth, Alariel is getting a new War Scroll. Hooray!
Finally.
I think they've learnt a lot. They're bringing out more god models since Alariel. She desperately needs it. They kept talking about on this on how Kragnos is like other god models, and they said Alariel, and the whole chat just went lol.
Yeah. I mean, Alariel, she's one of the first big kids like that.
Yeah, she was great back in the day. She's just not like original Stormcast. Their rules just need an update. However, we got some things told about Kragnos. So we know he's got a 2-up save and 18 wounds.
Yeah. And he gives, we saw that the rule too, he gives every destruction model around him +1 bravery.
Yep, and then he's got the shield invalid. So each time a model is affected by a spell or an endless spell ability, you roll 3d6. If it's greater than the casting value of that spell or endless spell, ignore the effects. So you use the casting value or spell on the War Scroll, not the actual roll. This is huge because this can stop things like Teclis in his tracks because it doesn't care what Teclis is rolling. It's just, cool. That has you can't use Teclis's 12 because it's not unbinding them either. It's just making Kragnos immune to them.
Yeah, which also means that Nagash's Arcane Bolt machine is not going to be anywhere near as effective.
Yeah, because he's got 3 dice to roll a 5-up.
That's right.
One of them needs to be a 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, it needs to be a 4 because it has to be greater.
Well, too great, so. But that a lot of armies now, especially the Aussie Arc army, still go with the Arcane Bolt machine gun. So, up comes Kragnos. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, it's not really going to do it. And so a little bit about his shield as well. We know that it's called what it is. The because he chipped the tooth of Gorkamorka when they got into a scrap.
Yep.
And we got the cover here, the cool little cover of Kragnos. And that is pretty much it for Kragnos. What are you hoping for from this book? What do you want to see happen?
Well, what I'd really like to see is some rules for that mixed destruction army that actually make them a viable force. I mean, if in terms of order, the Cities of Sigmar book allows you effectively to do mixed order and still get benefits because, depending on which city you get, you can include Stormcast. Now you can include Daughters of Cain. There's somewhere you can include Caradron. You can do it that way with the Cities book. Death, obviously, Legions of Nagash. So this will hopefully we'll get something similar for Destruction. So that, you know, when you've got your ogres and your orcs and your grots and stuff together, there is some sort of cohesion and some sort of, you know, benefit for doing it. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. And just responding to Spark Hero in the chat as well. Maybe when you see a teaser for AOS 3, I mean, we've not seen Broken Realms Kragnos, and 3rd edition would have to be after that. So you got to think like they're a little bit behind with their releases. We saw 3 Psychic Awakening books that hadn't been released before, and that weren't released, and then we saw 9th before any of them were actually released. So it's not unheard of in current times for them to just go.
COVID's messed with their releases and stuff.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this, like we saw 3rd edition. My personal thoughts on the reveals were, if we're either going to see 3rd edition last night, or we're going to see it on Saturday. If we didn't see it on Saturday, that made Saturday a little bit interesting, or maybe Old World or Horus Heresy 2.0. But
yeah, I'm agree. I would think Saturday, simply because it ends Warhammer Fest on a high.
It's got to be something big. And as much as I like, Old World would be a big one. I would say Old World would be the only thing I think that would be as big a reveal as 3rd edition. Heresy doesn't have quite it. Like, as much as Heresy is popular, it's nowhere near as popular as the main games.
Well, see, the death of Alan Bly shot that in the foot, really. Yeah,
and like Heresy's plunge into not being quite as popular is not any fault of anyone. I will say that.
No. And I think, I mean, you're right. The Old World would be a massive release. But Forge World have really slowed down. I don't think they're ready yet.
Yeah. Like, just how they've only been showing us, like, so when they showed concept sketches, they showed actual sketches, like hand-drawn sketches, which to me says that's all they've done. We have not actually seen a model sketch. So there's a difference between a concept sketch and a model sketch.
I think we're a long way off Old World.
And like, we were 3 or 4 years before current situations hit. So I still think we're 3 or 4 years off of Old World.
But like, I'm
confident.
As we saw with 40k with Psychic Awakening and with End Times, Broken Realms is clearly building up to that. Yeah. So, I think, as I said, what we see in Kragnos, and hopefully that sort of mixed destruction rules and stuff will lead us into 3rd.
Yeah, and I think, like, for me, what's been cool about this is Psychic Awakening was really good for 40k, but they learned a lot from Psychic Awakening, I think, and applied that to Age of Sigmar. So what's great about that is they've, like, and I've had, like, 40k friends say that Broken Realms was done better than Psychic Awakening, and that's not saying that Psychic Awakening was bad. It's that they've clearly learnt from the things they did in that. And I do think Psychic Awakening was better than the Realmgate Wars, and the Realmgate Wars were better than End Times.
Yeah.
These saga books they're doing.
They're building as they go, and they're learning. Yeah.
Which is good. It's all you can want, is that the next product, the next time, we go into a new edition of 40k and we start getting books like this again, because this is a good way to lead out an edition. I love this idea of, like, doing this. And it clearly is working for them, Games Workshop, because it's really popular.
Yeah. And by doing the updates to the scrolls and things that they're doing, it means that they're at least trying to level the playing field a bit going into the new edition.
Yeah.
So we don't go in with that one army that's just utter trash.
Yeah. I don't think the changes are going to be as big into the new edition as, say, 8th to 9th for 40k were. I think we'll be seeing a very similar sort of 1st to 2nd edition Age of Sigmar, where it was really tuning up and applying the lessons we'd learnt.
Yeah.
There are rumors out there as well, coming from people I wouldn't expect to lie about things. So
what is interesting too is we've had comments from designers about things like rolling for priority is not going away, don't panic, that sort of stuff. Because there are some contentious things in the rules. Some people love, some people hate, but they're working. And it's what makes the game unique. So I don't think we're not going to have those wholesale changes by any means.
No. Age of Sigmar is in Age of Sigmar's meta is probably not in a great place. I think we can safely agree with that. There are definitely some outliers that do hurt the meta in like that sense a bit.
Yeah.
And look, that happens over the course of an edition. Like you will get at the end of edition, there will be power creep from start to finish. It just happens. As more stuff's added, more books come out. The game is hard to balance perfectly without it just being samey.
Yeah. And look, as I've said many times, every single time we get a new poster child, in this instance, Lumineth, people scream about inequality and blah blah blah, but then in a very short space of time, it's someone else that's screaming inequality. So, there's always going to be some balance issues. If you're playing the game, largely like we do, which is for storytelling, you just get over it. Like as I've said many times, I'll take an army that I like the story of, or I like the models for, and I can generally do reasonably well with it at competitive events. When I get to the top tables, I tend to get shellacked, but I usually get there. So it's not necessarily about the meta; it's about still having a good time.
Yeah. But I look forward to what will probably be 3rd edition on Saturday. If there is a 3rd edition reveal on Saturday, we might try and tee up another narrative show for next week or sooner so we can talk about it. So we'll try, we'll work something out. But we might try and tee something up for that so we can have a good chat, because I'm sure if 3rd edition gets revealed, we're going to have loads to chat about.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say this, I look forward to the rest of Warhammer Fest and all the reveals that are going to come with that. What do we got? We got 40k tonight, don't we?
I think it was 40k now, because we had Necromunda yesterday. I think it's 40k.
Yeah, so we got Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40k, Wednesday's Black Library, which I'm really excited for, because that's going to be the Horus Heresy finale, I reckon, revealed then. I think that's going to be interesting. Just seeing like a bunch of the authors talking about like their final book preparations and like putting in the final bits for the stories. I think that's going to be finally see that storyline finished is going to be amazing. It's been 15 years, 20 years almost in the making.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And some fantastic books in there. If you haven't read the Horus Heresy, I know this is an Age of Sigmar, but if you haven't read the Horus Heresy, go start and go read. They're amazing. There's some truly fantastic books. Especially the sort of central ones. The first sort of 5 or 6 in particular are just gold.
Yeah.
Those first 3, Legion and First Heretic, are probably my standout.
Yeah. And look, there are some meh ones, but there always are, depending on who's writing what. But
there's a lot of books in that series. You're bound to have a meh one out of it.
Yeah, there is a shitload of books, but on the whole, outstanding storytelling.
Yeah.
My wife even read those first few, and she's not a 40k person at all.
No. Like, to put it this way, like, I know we're getting off topic about Age of Sigmar, but those books, there are multiple New York Times bestsellers in that series.
Yeah.
Like, that should say enough. They're the only Black Library books to ever get that, besides Gotrek. Anyway, and then we've got Box Games Thursday. That'll be interesting. Hopefully we get some announcement on what is happening with Curse City. That's all I want from that. If it is gone, I just want them to say it's gone. Like just some, but also look forward to. We'll probably see Underworlds on that, which would be cool for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, I mean we're almost due, I think, for a new lot of that, especially given we've just had Kragnos revealed.
Yeah, and then it's back to 40k. So this is what makes me think Saturday is Age of Sigmar, because we've got the 2 days of 40k. I think that second day of 40k is going to be a big day for 40k. That Friday is going to be big.
Yeah.
And then Saturday is a mystery reveal. I'm putting my money down on it being 3rd.
Yeah, on my money's there as well. That's what I would be thinking.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we might be wrong. We might be completely off track. And if so be it.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we've rambled all off. We're getting rambling now. So with that, I think we're going to love and leave everyone. Thank you all for coming and watching and chatting Broken Realms. Like I said, we may try and organise one next week. If not, we'll be back in a fortnight, like always, for the Age of Sigmar Narrative show. It's been a ton of fun chatting and talking. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We're close to getting to that 5K. And that'll be amazing to hit by my birthday, which is next month. So let's get there.
Yep.
But with that said, thank you, everyone, for watching. Hope you all stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.